Touch the untouchable, break the unbreakable. Row, row, fight the power. See the invisible, eat the impossible. Row, row, fight the power. Libera me from hell. Gurren Lagann, great show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this much worse show. It's another As Failed on TV dinner. I am your esteemed host, Chris the Nerd, and I am just thrilled that you're here with me today as we take a look at yet another frozen meal brand. This one a little younger as far as frozen meal entities are concerned. We have Impossible brand foods, and you might be familiar with them as they've been cropping up quite frequently at some of your favorite shitty restaurants, most notably, at least for me, Dunkin' Donuts and Burger King, in the form of the Impossible sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich and the Impossible Whopper, respectively. Both of which I find to be fine, I guess. I think the sausage, egg, and cheese fares a little bit better because maybe sausage is a little easier to fake, whereas the Whopper, when you eat that, you're kind of expecting something, with a very specific taste in mind, and when you have to get down to that level of specificity is the word, it gets a little bit more difficult. But it turns out, as I was perusing the frozen meal section looking for another target, I came across the Impossible frozen dinners, and I think this is going to be quite interesting because frozen dinners already are a rough approximation of what the real food is supposed to be, and Impossible as a brand is a rough approximation of an existing food. So what we have is a rough approximation of a rough approximation, still with enough sodium in it to mummify a fucking horse. My God. But we are going to give them a try today. I think this is going to be okay. Like I said, I've had experience with Impossible. I've thought they were fine. I feel like this will also be fine. I must admit, I picked spaghetti and meatballs specifically because it's kind of hard to screw that up, even if you're doing a plant-based version. A meatball, I don't know, it's basically just mush. So as long as it tastes mushy and kind of meaty, we should conceivably have some success here. Okay. I mean, I guess I wasn't expecting much. Really, the reason why this is... It's so much more expensive. Like, this whole thing costs $6, and 6 measly little meatballs... Well, my ultimate curiosity is, in comparing it to a regular meatball, if you were to serve this to me and I didn't know that it was an Impossible brand meatball, would I be able to tell the difference? Because, like I said, I do have experience with Impossible brands, but not enough to where I would say I'm an expert. So I'm going to go cook this, and we're going to see what we get out of it. You're not going to be able to tell this through the camera, but this smells really weird. Like, it doesn't smell, like, the heartiness of the marinara isn't really coming through. It has, like, a weird earthy smell, which tends to turn me off of a lot of meat substitutes. I took a look at the ingredients while this was cooking. Nothing in it strikes me as being weird. Like, it's just like a bunch of soy, basically, is what these meatballs are made out of. I'm really nervous about these noodles. I'm really nervous that they're not going to be any good. So I'm actually going to... I know the whole point is to start with the meatball, but I really want to get this pasta out of the way. The sauce looks okay. It looks like it's got a lot of herbs in it, so it doesn't just look like some shitty, like Walmart brand pasta sauce. Like, it actually looks like it's got some substance to it, so... I guess my worry about the noodles was ill-founded. Those are fine. Are they great? No. They're a little thin, and they have like if you get like a wheat pasta, I don't think this certainly isn't like a wheat-based pasta, but if you have some of those like wheat pastas, they have a little bit more of a gritty texture to them, which I keep finding in a lot of these. I keep having to face down a lot of gritty textures, which I'm not always pleased by. So I'm not the hugest fan of them, but they're fine. I'm gonna hint a red pepper flake in there. I'm not upset about that. I do like that. The sauce is actually pretty good. I'm decently impressed by the sauce. It is quite salty. I'm wondering if that's where most of the sauce content, well, that is all the sauce content is in the sauce. The salt content, I feel, is very heavy in the sauce. It's a rich sauce, but it is very salty. I'm glad there's all these other herbs there, but, well, Nona Impossible says more salt. Again, it's not amazing. It's not the best, like, pasta sauce or pasta I've ever had, but it's not bad. But now we get to the piece de resistance, the Impossible meatball. I want to cut it open. Well, you know what? Actually, there's 6 of them. They're tiny little things. Again, this was a $6 meal, so for it to be this expensive and for the meatballs to be this kind of pathetic is unfortunate, but, not really unexpected. I'm gonna try one, and then I'm gonna get a cross section to see what we're looking at the insides here. If somebody were to serve that to me and I didn't know that it was a plant-based meatball, I wouldn't be able to tell. I would know that this was frozen, and I would assume there's more salt in it. But I would assume this was a poorly made meatball, which is not I mean, if your entire aim is to just replicate a meatball out of plants, it comes really close. But if you want to eat something that tastes good and it tastes like a poorly made version of what it is, that's not really a good thing, is it? So I'm a little confused by it. It doesn't taste awful, but were I served this not knowing what it is, I would think somebody just didn't know how to make meatballs. Like, they wanted to be fancy and put breadcrumbs in it, which, I mean, you would do if you're making like a meatloaf. I don't know if I would put, maybe some people do. I don't know if I would put breadcrumbs in a meatball, certainly a meatloaf. So there's our cross section of Impossible meatball, and it certainly looks solid. It looks solid, which just looks too, what's the word I'm looking for? It's too solid a mass. Like, it feels like there's nothing in between it. Like, it is 100% solid. It falls apart too quickly. And I think that's where the illusion is lost. Where you could say, okay, this isn't really a meatball because it just kind of disintegrates. Which makes sense because it's not meat, it's soy. It's soy proteins. When you have all the pieces together, I think the illusion holds a little stronger. And I don't know if that is a compliment or sort of an indictment on the whole thing. Because if you have to keep putting tricks in, like more salt here and a salty sauce and a bunch of noodles and this and that and onion powder and garlic powder and red pepper flakes, and you throw in all of these different ingredients when what they're there to do is to mask you from the sad reality that what you're eating is not actually a meatball, it is a bunch of plants pretending to be a meatball. I don't think it's there yet, and I don't think it has helped that this is that this was based from like a frozen entity. I'd be curious to try, because I've seen commercials for them lately, I'd be curious to try the Impossible sausages and beef patties that they sell where they're like red and they brown up when you cook them, because they're meant to be like actual ground beef burger patties. I'd be curious to try those and see if those fare better, because I'm assuming the Impossible sausage, egg, and cheese you have at Dunkin', and the Impossible Whopper you get at Burger King, and then this, all of these were from frozen sort of origins. That was the intention. So they're just salty fucking nightmares. It's really bready. I'm not huge on the texture. I know that keeps coming up in these videos, but I'm really not a fan of how the mouthfeel of that. I've only got 3 of them left. You know what? I was bitching about them being small and there only being 6 of them, but actually, because they're so bready and I think actually there is yeast in here, if I remember correctly from looking at the ingredients. That kind of explains it. It feels more filling, which is actually a good thing. These being filling is good, because you can have one of them and be sated for the evening, which I'm a fan of, actually. Again, for the price, though, to pay more for something that's not quite there just doesn't sit right with me. It's certainly curious. It's certainly very curious, but while I digest that curiosity, let's see what's on TV. Have you or a loved one been hurt or injured in an accident? Good. At the law offices of Huckster and Pfaff, you only pay if we win. It's a real Sophie's choice for you, isn't it? Do you want to lose and live the rest of your life with crippling medical debt, or win and live the rest of your life with crippling personal debt? To me. Press the same number on your phone 9 times and eventually a lawyer will pick up. You could never trust anybody in that profession. The channel that you were watching was made possible by the channel that you were watching. Please perform all of your algorithmic duties by liking, commenting, subscribing, and notification belling. All dissidents will be seen as enemies of the state. Stay tuned for more. Coming up right after literally this. What'll happen first? You running out of stuff to advertise, or me running out of frozen meals to eat? If I were eating this solely as just pasta and sauce, sad, I know. But I'm trying to think of this almost like scaled in a way. Like if I were just eating pasta and sauce, this would still be subpar. It's not on the level of an actual spaghetti and sauce dinner. Like if you were to make it yourself, that's a given. Based on other frozen pastas that I've had in the past, this still doesn't match up. I mean, the sauce is pretty good, but it's mostly what you're tasting is the salt. You get that occasional red pepper flake, and you can see the herbs in there, and you can feel them because there's so many of them. But it doesn't taste that much. It's still like a runny, watery pasta sauce. This isn't like Nona used to make. It's just whatever. And then you add these very strange meatballs. If you didn't know what they were, you would think something was wrong. And when you do know what they are, you get lost in trying to compare it to what it's pretending to be. That one was really chewy. I'm wondering what's hiding in the center of some of these things to make them so chewy. Like I said, like sort of the outside of them just sort of collapse in your mouth. And then these ones, these more recent ones that I've had, they're very chewy in the middle. Almost like the solid lump that I said exists in its core is just like, I don't know, it's like congealing over time. It's not great. I mean, the Impossible meatballs are not fantastic. The sauce really doesn't have much of a kick to it. There's no like zest or spice or much to it. The noodles are whatever, kind of chewy. And then, you know, it's like I said earlier, it's a rough approximation of a rough approximation. Even if like the Hungry Man Salisbury steak is pretending to be Salisbury steak, I'd rather have that pretend than this pretend. So, and all that, and I couldn't even guarantee that this is healthier just because of all the fucking salt in it. Next time though, we're gonna go back to the realm of something that is just not pretending, it is just full crap and it is proud of it. But until that time, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next As Failed on TV dinner.